star so bright. Pull your hat down, make sure your cinch is tight. Horse is kinda snuffy, cold chill up your spine. You'll get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight.
Howdy there, I'm Matt McKinley and we're burning daylight.
In the saddle till the job's done right.
Welcome to Burning Daylight, the only podcast for the working cowboy. Well, howdy there, daylight burners. Happy Wednesday. Apologize for not getting a show to you yesterday. My studio was broken. Like my audio stuff recorded. I recorded a baseball episode, or so I thought. I've got the audio of it, but the video didn't work. And they recorded a video, but it was supposed to be like 30 minutes, and it ended up being like 15 seconds. And just a blank screen with this little text box, but it said BD Sports. Anyways, then I spent all day arguing with AI chatbots to get it fixed because I don't know how to code. I'm more familiar than I was, but still not very proficient. So anyways, this is the Friggin Farm Ranch Report for Wednesday, May 6th, and we'll also roll some of the May 5th stories in there, and we'll give you a little bit of a longer episode today. Not too much longer, but let's go into it. So it's one shot. We'll keep the main domestic ag story where it belongs, and that is focus on the Big Four Packer antitrust story. And then we'll talk about the board, the barn, inputs, drought, and DC without making you bounce your head, making you bounce around in your own head or bounce your head against the wall. Probably will do that. And it won't all be my fault. But here's the deal. Big Four story is still the lead domestic ag story because your leverage still sits at the center of the cattle conversation. On the board, I'm still on the first slide, I believe. Okay, here we are. I'm gonna rearrange. Boom. Look at that. Look at me go. All right. On the board. Where are we at? June live cattle got hit Tuesday and then bounced a little bit today. August feeders did pretty much the same. Soybeans led the way both days. Soybeans were the Army Rangers. You know, Rangers lead the way. Soybeans led the way to last couple of days. And diesel stayed camped in the mid-5s with EIA at 464. AAA diesel average is at 565.9. And the AAA gas at 448.3. All right. Before we get all the way into the show, let's talk about our main sponsor, and that is Lone Star Stockyards over there in Wildorado, Texas. Got a sale every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Central. They finished up their Texas, Angus Association feeder sale? Yeah, Texas Angus Association feeder sale was yesterday. USDA report on that. They sold 980 head as opposed to 1137 last week and 708 last year. So up a little bit, about 85% feeder cattle. So compared to last week, feeder steers and heifers traded near mostly 2 to 6 higher as cattle futures rallied well into the green today following yesterday's drop. So this was yesterday's report. Fat cattle traded at a record high of 255 last week in Texas. Steer and heifer calves were too lightly tested for a market trend. Trading activity was active on good buyer demand. Quality ranged from plain to attractive in plain to attractive with a wide range of flesh conditions as well. The region is still very dry and in need of rain. We got a little bit of rain last night, actually a pretty good amount. According to the U.S. Drought Monitor, winter wheat in Texas was rated 56% poor to very poor or very poor to poor. I don't know why they do the extreme first and then Anyway, on April 26th across the state, along with 45% in Oklahoma. Supply was 85% feeder cattle. That was 50% steers, 47% heifers, 2% bulls, and 1% beef on dairy heifers. So probably about 10 head of those. Slaughter cattle, not very many, all cows. And 15% replacement cattle, stock cows, bred heifers, and cow calf pairs. Feeder supply over 600 pounds was 71%. If you got any sort of questions for the folks over at Lone Star, please do give them a holler. Find them over there on Atkinson Road, there in Wildorado, outside of Amarillo. Bill Martin is the owner over there. 970-302-5834 is his number. Sheldon Field manages the yard. 806-736-0040. And the office is 806-677-0777. And you can find all of their information at LoneStarStockyards.com. I don't have any of their consignments up yet. So also head over to Burning Daylight social media stuff. So whether that be Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, all of them. I'm on it. Burning Daylight or at Move Your Ass. The most important one you need to know about, though, is Substacks. That's burningdaylight.substack.com. And you can head over there and subscribe. You get all the numbers and the sources and a longer write-up for these farm and ranch reports, as well as access to my apps like the Burning Daylight Report and A Man About a Horse, which I am building to help kind of put a definition on the horse market. As we all know, it is a little bit fickle, to say the least. So let me pop those up on the screen real quick so you can see them, and then we'll get into the meat of the show. But here's the Man About a Horse show or app. Got your dashboard here. It tells you a little bit about the market signals. So this is a little deal I put in, and the valuation thing is not up to date yet, but it's where my listeners come in to play. So if you have a horse that you'd like to rate or you're looking to sell, please give me a holler. I will set you up with a tester account for this, so you can see A Man About a Horse, which you can put in your stuff about this, and there'll probably be some stuff that we need to do, but it'll give you an idea of what your horse is worth, what the best place to market it at, or best way to market it. And it even often offers humane euthanasia. We don't do it, but it does it does offer that if your horse calls for it. And sometimes they do, more often than we like to admit. We also got this metric that I have created. It's called the Cowboy Horse Coefficient. And the way it works is it rates the usability on a horse as it pertains to the cowboy world. So it's based off of the baseball statistic called OPS plus, or on base plus slugging percentage, which it takes on base and slugging percentage, but it also weights the average, and it shows like how many actual runs they create as a player. And so 100 being like your average, it's the league average player. So any number, any value above 100 means you're better than average. Any number below means you're below average, depending on how. So 100 is just your average. Like a 125 is into your like go-to elite type of horse, or 125 140 is like your over anything over that is like a unicorn horse. I rated Clara on here, and I'm very biased. I've had her for a long time, and she's treated me very well. And I've also got a lot of compliments on her. And she rated it like a 180, which seems high, but also, like I said, I need more horses to pull against so we can get a better better average or better reading of that statistic. And this is the Burning Daylight report with I've got where I do all my show prep. So I've tried to put everything that I might need for this show in this one place so I can pull it all. But also I've got some formulas that I use. So this is a freedom framework, which tells you what the market conditions are. So overall, it's a 55 today. So it's not great, but it's not bad. Feed costs are running high at a 52. Beef supply is a 51, so pretty low. Policy risk is getting better, so it's up at a 60. Demand is high, it's a 63, and the drought was way down here at like a 20. Now it's at a 48. So it's still not good, but it is improving, and it seems like at least out here that we've got a little bit of moisture. It's still dry, but we had some moisture, and that is a good thing to have. Still working on some updates here, so this part's stale, but that'll be fixed by tomorrow's show. Hopefully, same way with here. It's incredibly out of date, and this will become a new segment. When I was making this, I said to include the feeder flash from Corbett Wall as part of my deal. So then they just named this deal the feeder flash, but then they don't use Corbett Wall stuff. And so now I'm just going to rename it because I don't want to steal anything from anybody if I can help it. Anyway, go check that out. You can find all that at burningdaylight.substack.com. All right. Okay. Start with the lead domestic story, and that's the Big Four Packer antitrust probe. You guys already know the broad outlines here. We've covered the Packer concentration, DOJ pressure, and the fact the cash trade has not magically turned competitive just because Washington started saying the right words. So the question now is whether the problem exists, because it definitely does, but the question is whether anything happens that changes life on the ground for your average producer, your cowboy, your cattleman, your rancher. These are the things that matter next. So first, we need an actual DOJ filing, a leak that shows that this thing is more than theater, a new Packer margin blowout versus cash cattle, cattle state attorneys general stepping in or disappearing, and a major plant closure or disruption, or some policy fight that actually puts pressure on the concentration instead of just talking about it. For your cow-calf guys, this matters because the whole point is whether more real competition ever shows up in the calf check instead of in just a press release. For the feedlots, it means it matters because negotiated cash and bargaining power live right in the middle of this leverage rope. For everybody in the cattle business, this stays front and center until we see something that looks like action instead of good music or mood music. Bottom line on this is the Big Four is still the cleanest domestic ag story because it explains why the supply can feel tight, the board can bounce around, and producers still wind up cussing the same Packer structure week after week, year after year, and at this point, decade after decade. Okay, next up, we got let's do our livestock board, and We'll start with Tuesday first. The June live cattle closed at 252,925 or 92.5. So that was down 555. August feeder cattle closed at 372.22.5. That was down $1.52.5, and that was your warning shot. The fats took the bigger hit. The feeders softened a little bit, and everybody started wondering whether the market had finally run out of gas. So today, live cattle came back to 253.47. That was up 47 cents. Feeder cattle lifted up to 372.95. That was up $1.55. So the 2-day story is definitely not a collapse. It is a pretty hard check lower followed by a modest bounce. So it did, it pulled back and then it came back a little bit. Didn't give it all back, but it did give some. And yes, the lean hogs are in the script today. It wasn't earlier. They said, I can't find it. And I said, go find it. So I have it all wired in there. Let me see, for example, where is the... Okay, we don't have the lean hogs on there, so now I got to put that. All right, so the hog complex has a June contract in the low 90s, right around $1 a pound, and summer hogs a little bit north of that. So Tuesday's trade had hogs firmer across the front months, with the lean hog index just over $91. So hogs are steadier than some of the cattle panic would make you think. But the message on livestock in general is that cattle tested lower and tried to steady. Hogs are firm enough to matter, and none of this says that you can throw your market discipline out the window. Keep your head on a swivel. All right, on the grains. 2-day bounce. Tuesday, July corn pushed up to about 479 3/4. That was up 15 cents. July soybeans closed at 12.10 1/4. That was up about 28 1/4. July Kansas City wheat closed at 691 3/4. That was up 13 3/4. But beans were absolutely driving the tape. Wednesday corn eased back to 468. That was down 1/4. Soybeans held at 11.94 1/4. That was still up 6.50 on the day. That's not right. July soybeans 12.10 1/4. They pulled back to 11.94 1/4. So, all right. Kansas City wheat came in at 687 1/2. That was up 5 cents. So on the 2-day read, the beans led both days. Corn spiked and then cooled back off a bit, and the wheat followed that. And what that means is if you're feeding cattle, this is not the kind of move that lets you relax. Feed is still expensive enough to tighten your margin without asking your permission. Cattle and beef leverage. So let's put the board to the actual cattle business. USDA March cattle on feed. We all know that 11.55. We know those numbers. Still waiting on the April cattle on feed numbers. But sale barn average across 6 markets was 460.01 per 100. That tells me that the placements are real with all the numbers. So we got cattle on feed 11.55 million, placements at 11.6 million, marketing's at 11.52, and then that sale barn average across the 6 barns that I'm tracking, 460.01. So the placements are real. Feeder demand into the yards is very real, and there's still enough cattle moving through the system that packers don't have to lose their minds chasing supply just yet. But that is exactly why the Big Four story and the feed yard leverage story belong together. If you own fats, here's the setup. Tuesday hurt because June lives broke while feed and diesel stayed ugly. Wednesday helped a little because the board bounced, but not enough to call it some big reset. If you're current, you've got a little room to work, and if you're behind heavy and long on feed, you're still selling from a weaker spot than you'd like. On the sale barn pulse, still matters what the ring tells you because the buyers believe the board. The sale barn pulse still matters because the ring tells you whether the buyers believe the board or not. That 460.01 average across the 6 reporting boards says the middle of the feeder market is holding, but nobody is paying stupid money for the risk. Better cattle still need to separate themselves, and local run size and class mix still matter as much as the average. So the board wobbled for 2 days, but the barn is where you find out whether that wobble actually changed the buyer behavior. And as of yet, it hasn't, because the cattle supply is short, very, very short. Let's get on to the input side. Fuel bites both ways. Let me bebop around here a little bit. All right. EIA weekly on diesel average is at $5.64 a gallon. That was up 29 cents week over week. AAA national diesel average is at $5.65.9, and gas from AAA is at $4.48.3. All that means freight, feed, hauling, and everyday ranch running all stays expensive. Everything about it. Tuesday's corn spike and Wednesday's slight give back still leave you with some costly feed. Hay, fertilizer, and interest rates are still very thin, so we're not gonna fake precision we don't have. The rates haven't changed any as far as I know. So the message really hadn't changed much. You got to protect your flexibility. Diesel's in the mid fives, and feed that still bites is not where heroics pay. So when I was hammering it last week of that, like the time to buy diesel is now. Well, look at the jump in prices. So all that ties into the war reel, which we'll cover now. There we go. All right. Okay, on the war reel, crude is still hovering around the low 100s, about $102 a barrel for West Texas. That'd be about 112 on the Brent index. As long as the crude hangs out there and the shipping choke points stay hot, or checkpoints stay hot, nobody in ranch country should expect cheap diesel to come riding over the hill, just blasting that bugle. You know, it's the cavalry's not coming anytime soon on that. We got to figure out that whole Iran situation and get those ships flowing through that area before any of this changes. That doesn't matter. It does help that we have huge numbers of oil that we can tap into. And regardless of how you feel about it, we did just kind of retake the Venezuelan oil from them. So that does help, and it would be a lot worse off if we were still under the Biden energy policy going into this Iran deal. So as stupid as I think the Iran deal is, the way they went about it was maybe not as stupid as the whole thing in general. You can still execute a stupid plan in a smart way. Doesn't make the plan any better, but you can execute it better to kind of minimize the fallout. And I don't know if that's what we did, but I will say that part does help things. But this all matters because the global trouble hits home through freight, fuel, and fertilizer, and the grain movement. We're not covering it just for the drama. We're covering it because it shows up in your invoices and your bottom line at the end of the day. And it's this shows to help you guys stay current. It's helped myself stay current, and it's a big enough story that I keep beating that dead horse, because that dead horse will bite you eventually. All right. Let's get into some policy and domestic, more onto the domestic ag stuff. Congress Watch still has Senate Bill 424 sitting in committee. That means it's still on the radar, but it hasn't turned into action yet. And I believe that's the farm bill. APHIS is still moving on the proposed brucellosis surveillance zone expansion. That is a mouthful, isn't it? That's what she said. Proposed brucellosis surveillance zone expansion around Greater Yellowstone. So if you're in Montana, Wyoming, or Idaho, or you're moving cattle out of that expanded zone, that means more testing, more vet work, more chances for one positive test to jam up your plans, and most of those times they're false positives. We've had to do a lot of that TB test on on dairy cattle because you have to test everything of a certain age when you cross state lines, and it is a real pain in the ass. This is the kind of policy story we do care about because not because it sounds dramatic, but it turns into real cost, real paperwork, and a real big fucking pain in the ass. All because some bureaucrat decided so. Now, that being said, the brucellosis zone may need to be expanded. I don't know, but it is something to look at. All right, so underreported ag story, the Southeast region, so Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, they're sitting around 93% of the area in D2 to D4 drought. That's a big deal. That's going to stress your forage a lot. That means you're going to have to haul water. You got to find feed substitutes, and the kind of pressure that can turn a planned marketing into forced selling. And we're seeing that. Take a look at Nebraska. Nebraska's got, when it rains, some of the best grass country out there. But that fire has wiped out so much land for this year that it's unusable. And last reported 35,000 head of cattle or so are displaced. And well, if nobody else has grass either, that means a pretty big sell-off. Now, I remember back in the 2012, 13, 14 range when the drought was real bad on the southern plains, in the high plains area. Right at the tail end of that, my good buddy Clint Mandell's folks were facing that same issue. Do you sell off? And they bounced cattle around, but they were able to hold on to their mama cows, and that made their herd rebuild a lot more manageable. I wouldn't say easier, but manageable for sure. And so hopefully there's a bunch of guys that are set up like that, but I know that there's probably going to be some pretty good liquidations on that. And then the Southeast deal is kind of the same thing. It's just minus the fire part. It's just no rain, I guess. And so this is why the drought stays on the board as more than a weather map. It changes your grass and your cow numbers and your leverage down the road if that drought don't break. All right, let's close it out for the day. We got our 2-day recap. The Big Four Packer antitrust pressure is still the lead domestic ag story. I have reached out to several different people on this. So I sent emails to a number of states attorneys general that signed on to this letter to push the DOJ to investigate, and I've reached out to a bunch of different congressmen. The only people I've heard back from was Thomas Massey's people, and he's campaigning for re-election right now. So hopefully in June we can set something up. That is the goal right now. I'm in talks with his comms director, and then South Dakota Attorney General's office did respond. I've not gotten comment from anyone as of yet, but we will continue to follow that because it is a big deal, and I'm curious as to what actually happens. Because if you haven't noticed, the Trump administration can be pretty ham-handed at times. Okay. Tuesday gave us a hard break in the June live cattle and a strong bean-led grain move. Wednesday gave us a modest bounce, firmer hogs, and the beans still leading while the corn cooled off a little bit. Diesel's still sky high, gas is high, and the Southeast drought story is still one to cover. That brucellosis rule watch is still alive and something you should keep an eye on if you're in that region or around that region. But the smart play with tape like this is still the same. Protect your downside first, then press when the signals get cleaner. It's not a get-rich market. It's a don't screw it up market. And yeah, I do like this setup that I've built over here because I have been right on a few things, and some seems like it might be common sense on some of it. But nonetheless, I am calling some stuff right, and I'm glad to see that. Not necessarily glad with what I called, but I did call it. So, anyways, that is what I got for you today for Wednesday, May 6th. Angels are putting a whooping on the White Sox right now. Let me see what on this day in history. I had a couple that I missed out on the other day. I don't have anything real good. Let me see. I'm going to use my chat bot. I built a AI. Give me some good on this tidbits. All right. On May 6th, 1877, Chief Crazy Horse surrenders to U.S. troops in Nebraska. It was the end of Major Plains Indians' resistance after bringing Custer to his end at Little Bighorn. It was a key moment in settling the West. On this day in 1937, May 6, 1937, the Hindenburg Zeppelin explodes into flames at Lakehurst, New Jersey, killing 36 people. It's an early aviation disaster, halted lighter than air travel for a little while. 1954, Roger Bannister breaks the 4-minute mile at 3:59.4. In Oxford. It was a milestone in human endurance, and shortly after that, many others soon after also broke the 4-minute mark. On May 6, 1970, Dwight D. Eisenhower signs the Civil Rights Act, bolstering black voting rights amid Southern farm tensions. A portion of which was struck down by the Supreme Court the other day on the Voting Rights Act. And in 1994, the Channel Tunnel, or the Channel, linking England and France, was opened as an engineering feat for global ag trade. Okay, that's what we got for today. We got Jeffrey Springs on the mound against Zach Wheeler in Philadelphia here in about an hour and a half. And I got baseball practice to go coach. And then I've got my daughter's softball game to go help coach as well. And we'll be back here tomorrow for baseball in the morning. And we'll do another Friggin Farm and Ranch Report in the afternoon. But thanks for tuning in. Please make sure you go like, rate, review, subscribe, follow, whatever the terminology is. Go find me and add me to your daily cycle. I'm on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, Instagram, and most importantly, Substack. burningdaylight.substack.com. Please go subscribe there. That's the best way to support the show. And on that note, move your ass. We're burning daylight.
Rise up in the morning beneath the stars so bright. Pull your hat down, make sure your cinch is tight. Horses kinda snuffy, cold chill up your spine. We'll get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight. Burning daylight. Burning daylight. In the saddle till the job's done right. Burning daylight. Well, life is just a gather, and you won't catch 'em all. But when you ride through the gate, make sure you sit up tall. I can see the horizon, it's looking pretty bright. Well, get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight. Burning daylight. Burning daylight. in the south till the job's done right.